The twin moons of Epsilon Prime cast an eerie glow over the desolate landscape of the human colony world. In the shadow of a towering cliff face, a sleek alien vessel touched down, its engines humming softly in the night air. The ship's hull shimmered, adapting to match the rocky terrain around it, a perfect camouflage. From within the craft emerged two figures, their crystalline skin refracting the moonlight in dazzling patterns. The taller of the pair, Zircon, held a small bundle close to his chest, his faceted eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. His mate, Astra, followed close behind, her movements quick and agitated. "We cannot delay any longer," Astra whispered, her voice like chimes in the wind. "The elders will soon discover our absence." Zircon nodded, his gaze fixed on the bundle in his arms. Within the folds of shimmering fabric lay their child, a tiny being whose skin flickered with a weak, erratic light. Unlike the brilliant, constant glow of his parents, the infant's luminescence was dim and uneven, a clear sign of what their people considered a debilitating disability. "Are we certain this is the only way?" Zircon asked, his tone heavy with doubt. Astra placed a hand on her mate's shoulder, her touch conveying both comfort and urgency. "You know the laws of our world, my love. A child born without the eternal light cannot survive in our society." "The elders would," she trailed off, unable to voice the harsh reality that awaited them if they returned with their imperfect offspring. With a heavy heart, Zircon knelt and gently placed the bundle on the ground near the entrance of a cave. The infant stirred, letting out a soft coo that seemed to echo in the vast emptiness around them. For a moment, both parents stood frozen, their resolve wavering. "Perhaps we could find a way," Zircon began, but Astra cut him off with a sharp gesture. "We've discussed this endlessly. Our world has no place for one such as he. At least here, among the humans, he may have a chance at life." As if sensing the gravity of the moment, the child's skin briefly flared with a burst of color, a kaleidoscope of hues that danced across its tiny form before fading back to a dull flicker. Astra gasped, her crystalline hand flying to her mouth. "Did you see that?" Zircon exclaimed, hope flaring in his chest. "Perhaps we were too hasty in our judgment. Maybe with time." "No," Astra interrupted, her voice firm despite the tremor that ran through her form. "One moment of beauty does not change the reality of his condition. We must go now, before we are discovered." With visible effort, Zircon tore his gaze away from his child. He reached out and took Astra's hand, squeezing it tightly as they turned back toward their ship. As they walked, their forms began to shimmer, blending seamlessly with the rocky landscape around them. Just before they disappeared completely, Zircon paused and looked back one last time. "May you find kindness in this world, little one," he whispered, "and may you forgive us for our weakness." In the blink of an eye, the alien couple vanished, leaving no trace of their presence save for the small bundle nestled against the cold stone of the cave entrance. The infant within stirred once more, its skin pulsing with a soft, warm light as if in response to its father's parting words. As the alien ship lifted off, its departure masked by advanced stealth technology, the first rays of Epsilon Prime's sun began to peek over the horizon. The new day brought with it the promise of discovery, for in just a few short hours, the human inhabitants of this remote colony would begin their daily routines. Little did they know that among them now lay a being that would change the course of their lives forever, a child of the stars, abandoned by its own kind, yet destined for greatness in ways no one could yet imagine. The infant slept on, unaware of the pivotal role that would play in bridging two vastly different civilizations. As Epsilon Prime's harsh sun climbed higher in the sky, bathing the rugged landscape in its unforgiving light, the abandoned child dreamed of colors and sensations beyond human comprehension, a silent testament to the extraordinary potential that lay dormant within its fragile form. As the unforgiving sun of Epsilon Prime reached its zenith, Rain Caldwell made her way through the winding paths of the colony's outskirts. Her weathered hands were stained with grease, and her overalls bore the marks of countless repairs. At 42, Rain had spent most of her life on this harsh world, keeping the colony's aging equipment running through sheer determination and ingenuity. Today's task had brought her to the very edge of the settlement, where an old atmospheric processor wheezed and sputtered. As she approached the malfunctioning machine, a faint sound caught her attention, a sound that didn't belong among the creaks and groans of failing machinery. Frowning, Rain paused, her keen ears straining to locate the source. There it was again, a soft, almost musical coo that seemed to be coming from a nearby cave entrance. Curiosity piqued, she cautiously made her way toward the sound. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing off the rocky walls. "Is someone there?" As she drew closer to the cave, the sound grew clearer. It wasn't human, that much was certain. It had an otherworldly quality that sent a shiver down Rain's spine. Steeling herself, she peered into the shadows of the cave entrance. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. There, nestled against the cold stone, was a small bundle wrapped in a shimmering material unlike anything she had ever seen, and from within that bundle came a soft, pulsing light. With trembling hands, Rain reached out and gently pulled back the fabric. Her eyes widened in amazement as she beheld the infant within. Its skin was unlike any she had ever seen, seeming to shift and change color like the surface of a soap bubble. Two large, opalescent eyes gazed up at her with an intelligence that seemed far beyond that of a human baby. "Well, I'll be damned," Rain whispered, her mind racing. She had heard stories of alien encounters from Earth, of course, but nothing like this had ever happened on Epsilon Prime. The colony was too remote, too insignificant in the grand scheme of things. The infant cooed again, reaching out with tiny, translucent fingers that seemed to glow from within. Without thinking, Rain offered her own calloused hand, gasping softly as the baby grasped her finger with surprising strength. In that moment, something shifted within Rain. The loneliness that had been her constant companion since losing her wife to the harsh realities of colony life began to recede. She found herself smiling for the first time in years. "Where did you come from, little one?" she murmured, gently lifting the bundle. "And why would anyone leave you out here all alone?" As if in response, the infant's skin flared with a burst of colors, a dazzling display that left Rain momentarily breathless. She understood then that this child was special, perhaps even unique. And with that understanding came a fierce surge of protectiveness. "Well, they may have left you, but I won't," Rain declared, cradling the baby close. "You're coming home with me, and to hell with anyone who says otherwise." With a determined stride, Rain turned back toward the colony, the abandoned atmospheric processor forgotten. She knew there would be questions, perhaps even fear and hostility from some of the other colonists. But as she looked down at the miraculous being in her arms, she knew that none of that mattered. "I think I'll call you Nova," she said softly as they made their way home, "because you're as bright and mysterious as the stars themselves." As they walked, Rain's mind whirled with plans and possibilities. She would need to keep Nova hidden, at least at first. The colony's governor, a stern woman named Ilara Vance, was notoriously xenophobic and would likely view an alien child as a threat. But Rain had friends in the colony, people she trusted who might be willing to help. There was Dr. Zain Mirza, the colony's chief medical officer, whose curiosity often outweighed his caution, and Finn O'Reilly, the communications specialist whose fascination with alien cultures might make him an eager ally. With their help, perhaps she could give Nova a chance at a real life here on Epsilon Prime. As they approached the outskirts of the settlement, Rain paused, looking down at the child who had already changed her life so profoundly. "I don't know what the future holds for us, little Nova," she said softly, "but I promise you this, you'll never be alone again. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." Nova's skin shimmered in response, a warm glow that seemed to pulse in time with Rain's own heartbeat, and as they stepped into the shadow of the colony's protective dome, Rain felt a sense of purpose and hope that she hadn't experienced in years. Little did she know that her decision to rescue this abandoned child would set in motion a chain of events that would not only change the fate of Epsilon Prime, but potentially reshape the relationship between humanity and the stars themselves. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye, and Nova grew from a mysterious infant into a child of wonder. Rain's small prefab home on the outskirts of the colony became a sanctuary of discovery and love. With each passing day, Nova revealed new abilities that left Rain and her small circle of trusted friends in awe. Dr. Zane Moser sat at Rain's kitchen table, his dark eyes wide with excitement as he reviewed the latest data on his tablet. "It's extraordinary, Rain," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Nova's cellular structure is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if their entire body is in a constant state of adaptation." Rain nodded, watching as Nova played in the corner, their skin shifting through a kaleidoscope of colors as they manipulated a set of building blocks with their mind. "I've noticed they can change their body temperature at will now," she said. "Last week, when the cooling unit broke down, Nova kept the whole house comfortable until I could fix it." Finn O'Reilly, perched on a nearby stool, let out a low whistle. "And don't forget about the time they intercepted that deep space transmission. A 5-year-old kid, picking up signals our best equipment can't even detect. It's bloody amazing, is what it is." Nova looked up at the sound of their name, their opalescent eyes focusing on the adults with an intensity that still sometimes unnerved Rain. "Are you talking about me?" they asked, their voice carrying an odd, melodic quality that seemed to resonate in the air. "We sure are, kiddo," Rain said with a smile. "We're just trying to understand all the amazing things you can do." Nova tilted their head, a gesture that always reminded Rain of a curious bird. "I don't understand why it's amazing," they said. "Isn't everyone like me?" The three adults exchanged glances, a mixture of wonder and concern in their eyes. How do you explain to a child that they're not just unique, but potentially one of a kind in the entire universe? Before anyone could respond, a sharp knock at the door made them all jump. Rain's heart raced as she moved to answer it, gesturing for Nova to hide in their special spot, a hidden compartment they had built together for just such emergencies. She opened the door to find Governor Elara Vance standing there, flanked by 2 security officers. The governor's steel-grey hair was pulled back in its usual severe bun, her eyes cold and calculating as they swept the room. "Mechanic Caldwell," she said, her voice clipped. "We've received reports of unusual energy signatures coming from your residence. Care to explain?" Rain forced a smile, her mind racing. "Good afternoon, Governor. I'm not sure what you mean. I've been working on some new designs for the atmospheric processors. Perhaps that's what your sensors picked up." Vance's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps, but I think it's time we had a proper inspection of your home, don't you? After all, the safety of the colony is paramount." As the governor pushed her way inside, Rain caught Zane's eye, silently pleading for help. The doctor cleared his throat, stepping forward. "Governor Vance, I can assure you that any unusual readings are likely due to my own research. I've been using Rain's home as a secondary lab, with her permission, of course." Vance turned her icy gaze on Zane. "Is that so, Dr. Moser? And what exactly is the nature of this research?" As Zane launched into a complex explanation designed to confuse and distract, Finn sidled up to Rain. "I've got a bad feeling about this," he whispered. "We need to get Nova out of here." Rain nodded imperceptibly, her heart pounding. She knew this day might come, but she had hoped for more time. More time to understand Nova's abilities, more time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the outside world. Suddenly, a soft glow began to emanate from the hidden compartment where Nova was concealed. Rain's breath caught in her throat as she realized what was happening. Nova was scared, and when Nova was scared, their powers often manifested in unpredictable ways. The governor's head snapped around, her eyes locking onto the source of the light. "What is that?" she demanded, striding toward the glowing panel. Time seemed to slow as Rain watched in horror. She saw Vance reach for the compartment, saw Nova's small hand emerge, glowing with an intense light. And then, just as the governor's fingers brushed against Nova's skin, a burst of energy exploded outward, knocking everyone in the room off their feet. As the dust settled, Rain struggled to her knees, her eyes searching frantically for Nova. What she saw made her gasp. Nova stood in the center of the room, their entire body pulsing with a brilliant light. Objects floated around them in a swirling vortex of energy, and their eyes blazed with a power that seemed to transcend the physical world. "I won't let you hurt my family," Nova's voice resonated, filled with a strength and authority that belied their young age. Governor Vance stared in a mixture of fear and awe, her earlier bravado completely evaporated. What are you?" she whispered. As the tension in the room reached a fever pitch, Rain realized that everything was about to change. The secret they had worked so hard to keep was out, and the future of Nova, and perhaps all of Epsilon Prime, hung in the balance. The aftermath of Nova's revelation sent shockwaves through the colony. Governor Vance, shaken but quick to recover, immediately placed Rain's home under quarantine. Security forces surrounded the perimeter, their weapons trained on the modest dwelling that now held the most extraordinary being on Epsilon Prime. Inside, Rain paced anxiously, her mind racing to find a way out of this predicament. Nova sat cross-legged on the floor, their skin pulsing with a soft, worried light. Dr. Zane worked furiously on his tablet, trying to make sense of the energy readings from Nova's outburst, while Finn attempted to bypass the communication blackout imposed by the governor. "We need to get Nova out of here," Rain said, her voice tight with stress. It's only a matter of time before Vance decides to take more drastic action. Zane looked up from his work, his face grave. "It's not just Vance we need to worry about. If word of Nova's existence spreads beyond the colony, we could have much bigger problems on our hands." As if on cue, Finn's communicator crackled to life. "I've got a signal," he exclaimed. "But, oh no. What is it?" Rain asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Finn's face paled as he listened to the transmission. "It's not good. Vance has already sent a message to Earth. She's requesting immediate intervention from the Interstellar Defense Force. She's labeling Nova as a potential threat to humanity." The room fell silent, the weight of this news settling heavily on everyone's shoulders. Nova looked up, their luminous eyes filled with a wisdom far beyond their years. "I'm sorry," they said softly. "I didn't mean to cause so much trouble." Rain knelt beside Nova, pulling them into a tight embrace. "This isn't your fault, sweetheart. We'll figure this out, I promise." Just then, a commotion outside drew their attention. Through the window, they could see a crowd gathering beyond the security perimeter. Some faces were filled with fear and anger, but others showed curiosity and even wonder. Word spreading fast, Finn muttered. "We need to make a decision, and quick." Zane cleared his throat, a determined look in his eyes. "I have an idea. It's risky, but it might be our only chance." As Zane outlined his plan, Rain felt a glimmer of hope. It was dangerous, yes, but it was also their best shot at protecting Nova and potentially changing the hearts and minds of the colonists. Hours passed in a flurry of preparation. As night fell, the tension in the air was palpable. Governor Vance's voice boomed through loudspeakers, demanding Rain and her alien ward surrender themselves for the safety of the colony. Just as it seemed the situation would reach a breaking point, Nova stepped forward. "I want to talk to them," they said, their voice steady despite the fear evident in their shimmering skin. Rain hesitated, every protective instinct screaming at her to keep Nova hidden. But as she looked into those otherworldly eyes, she saw a determination that couldn't be denied. "Okay," she said softly, "but we do this together." Hand in hand, Rain and Nova stepped out of the house. The crowd fell silent, all eyes fixed on the small, glowing figure beside the colony's mechanic. Governor Vance pushed through the security line, her face a mask of suspicion and barely contained fear. "Citizens of Epsilon Prime," Nova's voice rang out, clear and melodious. "I know you're afraid, I understand. I'm different, and different can be scary. But I'm not your enemy. I was born among the stars, yes, but this place, this colony, is my home. You are my family." As Nova spoke, their skin began to pulse with a warm, inviting light. Slowly, cautiously, people began to inch closer, drawn by the child's words and the inexplicable sense of peace that seemed to radiate from them. "I have abilities that might seem strange or even frightening," Nova continued, "but I want to use them to help, to make our home better, safer, more beautiful. Will you give me that chance?" A hush fell over the crowd. Governor Vance opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, a small girl pushed through the throng. Without hesitation, she walked up to Nova and took the hand. "I'm not afraid," the girl announced, looking defiantly at the adults around her. "Nova's my friend. They helped my mom when she was sick, remember?" One by one, other colonists stepped forward, each with a story of how Nova had touched their lives in small but meaningful ways over the past 5 years. The child who could predict sandstorms before the sensors. The mysterious repair of vital equipment when all seemed lost. The soothing presence that calmed the colony's children during the long, dark nights. As the stories flowed, the mood of the crowd began to shift. Fear gave way to wonder, suspicion to curiosity. Even Governor Vance seemed at a loss, her earlier certainty crumbling in the face of this outpouring of support. Rain watched in amazement as Nova, this extraordinary child from the stars, began to bridge the gap between two worlds. It wasn't a complete victory. There were still those who viewed Nova with distrust, and the threat of outside intervention loomed large. But it was a start, a fragile hope that perhaps, just perhaps, there was a place for Nova on this harsh, unforgiving world after all. As the night wore on and tensions slowly eased, Rain allowed herself a small smile. They had weathered this storm, but she knew it was only the beginning. Greater challenges lay ahead, but for now, in this moment, she felt a surge of pride for the remarkable child who had the courage to face a world of fear with nothing but truth and compassion. The future of Epsilon Prime, and perhaps humanity's relationship with the cosmos, had been irrevocably changed, and at the center of it all stood Nova, a living bridge between the Earth and the stars, ready to lead them all into an uncertain but thrilling new era. Months passed, and life on Epsilon Prime settled into a new normal. Nova's presence, once a closely guarded secret, became an integral part of the colony's daily life. Their unique abilities helped improve everything from crop yields to early warning systems for the planet's frequent ion storms. Even Governor Vance, initially so hostile, had come to appreciate the advantages of having such an extraordinary being among them. But the peace was not destined to last. On a crisp morning, as Rain and Nova worked together to upgrade the colony's atmospheric processors, an alarm blared across the settlement. Finn's voice crackled over the comm system, urgent and breathless. "Rain, Nova, you need to get back to the command center now. We've got incoming." Heart racing, Rain grabbed Nova's hand and they raced through the streets. Colonists peered out of their homes, faces etched with worry. As they burst into the command center, they found a scene of controlled chaos. Governor Vance stood at the main console, her face grim as she studied the readouts. Dr. Zane was furiously typing at a nearby terminal, while Finn manipulated the holographic display dominating the center of the room. "What's happening?" Rain demanded, trying to make sense of the swirling images before her. Finn looked up, his eyes wide. "We've got a ship entering the atmosphere, but it's like nothing we've ever seen before. The energy readings are off the charts." Nova stepped forward, their skin pulsing with an intense light. "It's them," they whispered, voice trembling. "They've come back." Before anyone could respond, the holographic display flickered and resolved into an image that made everyone gasp. Two beings stood there, their crystalline skin refracting light in dazzling patterns. They were unmistakably of the same species as Nova. "Greetings, people of Epsilon Prime," the taller of the two spoke, its voice like chimes in the wind. "I am Zircon, and this is my mate, Astra. We have come for our child." The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, but Rain heard none of it. Her focus was entirely on Nova, whose small form seemed to shrink under the gaze of their biological parents. "Nova," Rain said softly, kneeling beside the child. Do you remember them?" Nova's opalescent eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and longing. I don't know. I see flashes, feelings. But you're my family, Rain. You and the colony." Zircon's voice cut through the chaos. "We understand our actions may seem incomprehensible to you, but we had no choice. Our society, our laws, they left us no alternative." Astra stepped forward, her crystalline features softening. "We have spent every moment since then fighting to change those laws, and now finally we can bring our child home." Governor Vance, recovering her composure, addressed the alien visitors. "Your child? The child you abandoned on a hostile world. The child we raised, protected, and came to love as our own." Zircon and Astra exchanged a pained look. "We know we have no right to ask for forgiveness," Astra said, "but please understand, our world is changing. Nova's unique abilities, which once marked them as an outcast, are now seen as a gift. They could be the key to our species' survival." As the adults argued, Nova's glow intensified. Objects around the room began to float, and the air crackled with energy. "Stop," they cried, their voice resonating with power. "This is my choice, my life." All eyes turned to the small, shimmering figure standing in the center of the room. Nova looked from Rain to their biological parents, conflict evident in every facet of their being. "I don't know you," Nova said to Zircon and Astra, their voice quavering. "But I feel a connection, a pull I can't explain." They turned to Rain, tears glistening in their otherworldly eyes. "But this is my home. These people are my family. I can't just leave." Rain felt her heart breaking, torn between her love for Nova and the knowledge that she might be holding them back from their true potential. "Nova, sweetheart," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "This is your decision. Whatever you choose, know that I love you. We all do." The room fell silent, the weight of the moment palpable. Nova closed their eyes, their skin cycling through a kaleidoscope of colors as they grappled with the impossible choice before them. When they opened their eyes again, there was a new resolve in their gaze. "I won't choose," Nova declared. "I am of two worlds now. I belong to both and to neither. If my abilities can help save your people," they said, addressing Zircon and Astra, "then I will help. But Epsilon Prime is my home. I won't abandon it." Zircon and Astra exchanged surprised looks, then slowly nodded. "Perhaps," Zircon said thoughtfully, "there is wisdom in this. A bridge between our worlds." Governor Vance stepped forward, her earlier hostility replaced by a cautious optimism. "If Nova is willing, perhaps we can arrange an exchange. Knowledge, technology. A true alliance between our peoples." As the room buzzed with the possibilities of this new arrangement, Rain felt a small hand slip into hers. She looked down to see Nova smiling up at her, their skin glowing with a warm, comforting light. "Thank you," Nova whispered, "for everything." Rain pulled Nova into a tight embrace, her heart swelling with pride and love. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with diplomatic negotiations and the complexities of bridging two vastly different cultures. But in that moment, holding the extraordinary child who had changed her life and the fate of an entire colony, Rain knew that together they could face anything the universe might throw their way. As the discussions continued around them, Rain and Nova stood hand in hand, ready to embark on the next chapter of their incredible journey, a journey that would reshape not just their lives, but the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. The following weeks on Epsilon Prime were a whirlwind of activity. The arrival of Zircon and Astra had sparked a flurry of diplomatic talks, scientific exchanges, and cultural sharing that kept the entire colony buzzing with excitement. At the center of it all was Nova, bridging the gap between two vastly different species with a wisdom and grace that belied their young age. Rain watched with a mixture of pride and trepidation as Nova took on their new role. The bond between them remained strong, but she couldn't help feeling a twinge of sadness as she saw Nova spending more time with Zircon and Astra, learning about their heritage and the intricacies of their advanced technology. One evening, as the twin moons of Epsilon Prime cast their ethereal glow over the colony, Rain found Nova perched on the roof of their home, gazing up at the stars. She climbed up to join them, settling down beside the child who had changed her life so profoundly. "Heavy thoughts?" Rain asked, nudging Nova gently with her shoulder. Nova's skin shimmered with a soft, pensive light. "I'm trying to understand my place in all of this," they said, their voice carrying that otherworldly resonance that still sent shivers down Rain's spine. "I'm not fully human, but I'm not fully like Zircon and Astra either. Where do I belong?" Rain wrapped an arm around Nova's shoulders, pulling them close. "You belong wherever you choose to belong, sweetheart, and you can belong in more than one place, you know. Your heart is big enough for that." Nova leaned into the embrace, their glow warming with affection. "I've learned so much from Zircon and Astra. Their world is amazing, Rain. The things they can do, the knowledge they have, it's beyond anything I imagined." "But," Rain prompted, sensing there was more. "But it's not home," Nova finished softly. "Not like here. Not like you." Rain felt her heart swell with emotion. Before she could respond, a shimmering distortion in the air announced the arrival of Zircon and Astra. The alien couple materialized on the roof, their crystalline forms catching the moonlight. "We hope we're not intruding," Astra said, her chime-like voice tentative. Rain shook her head, gesturing for them to join the little group. As they settled down, an awkward silence fell over them. It was Zircon who finally broke it. "We owe you a debt we can never repay," he said, addressing Rain. "You gave our child a home, love, acceptance, everything we were too afraid to provide." Rain met his gaze steadily. "Nova gave me just as much in return. They brought purpose back into my life when I thought I had nothing left to give." Astra reached out, her crystalline hand hovering near Rain's. "We've come to realize that family is not defined by species or biology. It's defined by love, by choice. You are as much Nova's parent as we are." Nova's glow intensified, pulsing with joy at this acknowledgement. "Does this mean?" they began, hope evident in their voice. Zircon nodded, his faceted eyes reflecting the starlight. "We've spoken with our leaders and with Governor Vance. If you're willing, we'd like to propose a new arrangement, one that allows you to be a true bridge between our worlds." As Zircon outlined their proposal, Rain felt a sense of wonder growing within her. The plan was ambitious. Nova would split their time between Epsilon Prime and the alien homeworld, serving as an ambassador and facilitating the exchange of knowledge and culture. But more than that, both Rain and Nova's biological parents would be involved in this process, creating a unique, interspecies family unit. "It won't be easy," Astra cautioned. "There will be challenges, misunderstandings. We're venturing into uncharted territory." Rain laughed, a sound of both nervousness and excitement. "When has anything involving Nova ever been easy? But it's always been worth it." They all turned to Nova, whose skin was shimmering with a rainbow of colors, reflecting the turmoil and hope of the moment. "What do you think, sweetheart?" Rain asked softly. "Is this something you want?" Nova looked at each of them in turn. Rain, who had given them a home and unconditional love, Zircon and Astra, who had risked everything to come back for them, and finally, out at the colony that had become their world. Their glow steadied, settling into a warm, confident light. "Yes," Nova said, their voice ringing with certainty. "This is what I want. To be a part of both worlds, to help bring them together. It's why I'm here, I think. Why I'm different." As the group on the rooftop embraced, their disparate forms creating a tableau of unity and diversity, Rain felt a sense of rightness settle over her. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with diplomatic hurdles, cultural clashes, and the day-to-day struggles of raising a child who was quite literally out of this world. But as she looked at Nova, this extraordinary being who had brought together two vastly different species through nothing but the power of love and acceptance, Rain knew that they were on the brink of something truly remarkable. Together, they would forge a new understanding between Earth and the stars, paving the way for a future where the boundaries of family, of society, of what it meant to be human or alien, would be forever changed. As the first light of dawn broke over Epsilon Prime, painting the sky in hues that mirrored Nova's shimmering skin, Rain felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a family, as a colony, as a bridge between worlds. The abandoned child of the stars had found their place in the universe, and in doing so, had opened up a whole new realm of possibilities for all of humanity. As Nova's glow merged with the rising sun, Rain knew that this was not an ending, but a beginning, the dawn of a new era of interstellar understanding and cooperation, with Nova lighting the way forward.